And we are here. We are live on YouTube. Welcome to Summer at SAC. I'm Hot Mustard from KSYM 90.1 FM. And, it's a show where we talk about what's going on behind the scenes here at San Antonio College. It's summertime. We are not closed. We are fully open and ready to help you. So, on today's show, we have a special guest, Justin Blacklock, instructor of speech and director of forensics. Good morning.
Morning. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. It's a wonderful day. Beautiful outside.
Agreed.
So forensics, when we say director of forensics and then we say instructor of speech and forensics, what's up with that?
Yeah, so there's a big misnomer. In the world of speech and debate, we are labeled as directors of forensics, and a lot of people automatically associate the word forensic with forensic science. But actually, the term forensics originally referred to rhetoric. There's actually a book called On Rhetoric. It's an Aristotelian book that talks about Aristotelian logic, and it kind of encompasses the way that we analyze past events, right? So it's talking about what we do to verbally in the way that we interact, or the way that we debate, and or the way that we present things and discuss what has happened in the past. So really what it refers to is just analysis of the past, which we do in public speaking. So the director of forensics is just a director of analyzing things through words.
Nice. Okay. Glad we got that out of the way. It definitely could be a bit confusing.
Yeah, a little confusing.
So Justin, let's talk about your history at San Antonio College. How did you get here to SAC?
So originally, I'm from Corpus Christi. I got a scholarship to go to UTSA for actually music. And after my freshman year, I decided very quickly that music wasn't where I needed to be. That wasn't what I wanted to do ultimately. And I changed majors. And when I changed majors, I was kind of looking for a place to find a home in terms of my educational home. And originally, to save money, I came to San Antonio College, but SAC opened up a lot of doors for me. So I came here. I was in a speech class. I was asked to audition for the speech team. Once I was on the speech team, I got the chance to compete against some four-year schools. That opened up some opportunities for scholarships for universities, which opened up doors to graduate school. And so it kind of just opened a lot of doors for me across the board. Even though I didn't come right back here after I got my master's, I taught up in the Dallas area, Fort Worth area for a little bit. But as soon as a position opened up here at SAC, it gave me an opportunity to kind of give back to the community in a way that it gave to my life. I jumped at that chance. So I've been here for 6 years as an instructor. So I've been around the SAC community since 2007, been here as an instructor since 2015.
Very nice. And now, you lead the speech team. And every time I hear about the speech team, it's associated with winning. That's all I hear. Anytime the speech team is brought up, it's like winning. Like they won again.
It is a long history here as well. The speech team has been a part of San Antonio College, part of this department for 35, 40 years, I think, almost. I'd have to do my math to go back and figure out when the actual start date was, but going back 3, 4, 5 different coaches, directors of forensics, we've been a solid competitive team across the board. So, added pressure to make sure that I try to keep up that persona as far as SAC's standing within the speech community, but also to bring some awards to our students here at SAC and to bring some awards home to the school. Yeah, it's been a long-standing tradition, and I hope I'm carrying that on well, I guess is the best way to put it.
Oh, definitely. So if students are interested in joining the speech team, how can they get involved?
So there's a little bit of a process. We usually only take up to 6 or 7 members because, of course, we're working on a budget. And during a regular year before COVID, of course, we have hotels and travel budgets and all these things that we have to work under certain constraints. So I usually have an interview process, an audition process. Students come to me, they let me know what their schedule is, what their major is, what their GPA is. And then usually I will give them some sort of assignment. If they've had high school experience with competitive speech, then I usually have them come in ready to perform something. If they haven't, then I give them an assignment to go do research on a speech or to maybe practice the speaking part on an already prepared script. And then they come back in and do that for me. And it just depends on how many people are auditioning. I've had years where we have as many 12 plus students come into audition. And of course, I can only take 5 or 6. So, it just depends on the year, how stringent that is, but there is an interview process that they walk through. But all they have to do is start a dialogue with me. Just shoot me an email at jblacklock@alamo.edu. And I'm more than happy to walk everyone through that process and give everybody a chance to audition.
How was it during the pandemic? Were all the tournaments canceled, or how did that work?
So we were leading into our regional and national tournaments at the time that COVID really, started to become an issue in terms of travel, and then of course shutting down of the campus and everything like that. In terms of the community, all of the major national tournaments, if you're thinking like college basketball, like NCAA would have like canceled its Final Four. In terms of what we do, they canceled all of our major national tournaments. There were 2 programs in the Midwest in like Chicago and Ohio that ran like a national festival, but it wasn't for any titles. It wasn't in the same officiality as anything else. And we thought about doing that, but really we wanted to ride the pandemic out, make sure the students were safe, and readjust for the next year. Over the summer, there were tons of workshops, tons of committee meetings trying to figure out what we would do. And of course, to protect the students, the speech community decided to go online. So we've been working either through Zoom, or these new digital platforms have popped up that make it so that speech competitions can happen virtually, where you have judge members and audience members, and it silences things in a certain way that Zoom doesn't. And so lots of technology popped up, and we competed virtually all year long. So whether I'm rehearsing or whether I'm judging and coaching the students, everything was happening from my desk in my office at home via Zoom. So it was an interesting virtual year.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh man, I would have liked to see that. I mean, the dynamics of doing it live in front of people versus doing it remote, virtually, completely changes the dynamic, I would imagine.
A lot of performative aspects that have to change, that have to shift, because you don't get that initial audience feedback, which I think can either for a student make them more nervous, but for a lot of times with competitive speech team members who have been practicing these speeches, they feed off of that live energy, and it's just not there in Zoom. So we're definitely looking forward to going back to face-to-face tournaments. It won't be this fall, but probably in the spring. So we'll start off virtually in the fall, and then hopefully by spring we'll have opened up travel regulations, and we'll be competing in that physical environment with a live audience again.
Very nice. 2 national tournaments you all have attended. Tell us about those. These are 2 big ones.
Right. So all year long we compete, just like a sports team goes and competes at their regular season games. But there are 2 end-of-year national tournaments that we try to attend. We always go to the 2-year community college nationals, which is Phi Rho Pi nationals. And then this year, especially since we were remote, we took the opportunity to go and compete at the big 4-year show, which is American Forensics Association, or the AFA. And the AFA tournament is massive. It included over 75 universities and colleges. There were 15 community colleges, and then about 60 plus universities. So all the big names: UT Austin, A&M, Bradley University, George Mason, Harvard was there. There were some big names there. And at that tournament, we got awarded the 3rd place community college award. So out of all of the community colleges there, we came in 3rd place.
Oh, wow.
2-year nationals at Phi Rho Pi, we got the bronze award, the bronze team award, and we broke 4 events to out-rounds, 2 to semifinals and 2 to the final round at the national tournament. So it was a great year.
Awesome. So if anybody's thinking, speech team, and where can these, what job opportunities can these, strengths apply?
I mean,
where do you see a lot of students going?
It sounds crazy to say, our degree or what we do in our particular discipline is applicable across the board, but it really is. We have not only speech team students, but folks in our classes that will go on to be nurses and doctors, but we have people go on to be salespersons, people to go on and do motivational speaking. It really is a wide range of things that we can do. I liked, especially when I'm teaching my intro and public speaking course, to tell my students at the very beginning of the semester, it does not matter what field you want to go into. If you are a more confident speaker and if you learn some of the things that we lay out in this course, you will go further than the other folks within those same positions that you will hold. You will take those extra steps and you will move quicker because you have that confidence and that ability to speak and speak well, right? So wide range of things that you could do. Specifically within our field, though, a lot of folks do go into academia, go into higher education, or go into a lot of law if they're going into post, undergrad work. They go to postgraduate work. So a lot of law folks too.
Nice. Very. I would imagine definitely law.
Sure.
In the courtroom and litigation and everything. Wow. Right. Definitely transferable.
Right.
So let's see. And let's talk about the communication department. And one of the things is, what I love about SAC is we when we graduate students, we make sure they're well-rounded individuals. And so mostly every program, a student does have to take a speech course. Right. It's either intro to speech or public speaking. Talk a little bit about that. What's the difference between intro to speech and then public speaking?
So our intro class is I like to describe it as the front porch or the front door. You're getting kind of an introduction into the entirety of what we study in communication studies and in speech communication. So that course covers everything from perception and psychology to culture to interpersonal communication, group and leadership. And then at the end of that intro class, you do give a presentation or two, depending on the instructor. So you get to that public speaking aspect, right? But it's a wide reaching amount of knowledge that you're getting in the intro course. In the public speaking class, it is centered solely around traditional public speaking, the way that we think of it in terms of getting up and giving a presentation, whether it's a demo speech. And you and I were talking earlier about some demonstration speeches that you did whenever you were here at SAC. Students have a lot of fun with those demos, kind of like a how-to, but I think the demo takes it to that extra level, right? That extra step up. Informative speeches, we talk about persuasion and rhetoric, and then we sometimes, depending on the instructor, we'll do a group community service project as a final or as a bigger project at the end. But 13-15, you're getting up and talking, you're learning that craft, whereas 13-11, you're getting a survey of everything that our field has to offer.
Definitely. Yeah. And I always encourage incoming students, take public speaking right away, because that will transfer into every other course you're going to take for the rest of your life.
Right. And especially if you're going to a 4-year, if you're transferring out, huge, because presentations become a regular part of that 4-year experience, especially in your upper levels. So public speaking, hugely beneficial, doesn't matter where you're going or what you're doing.
It's always fun. Speeches they should be fun, and I was the type of student that if I didn't like what I was giving a presentation on, I would approach the professor and say, hey, maybe I can do this. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you get shot down, but hey, sometimes they allow it.
Right. I think it's better to see what is out there and try it, ask for forgiveness later, right? But at least you're making the effort.
Definitely. Also, business speech is offered in the department.
Right. So that is 13-21, and B&P really is for those folks going into business of any sort, whether they're doing sales or they are just a business communications major. That really focuses on interview techniques, both from the interviewer and the interviewee side. Then you also get a chance to do some public speaking, but most of the topics, they try to get them to center around things that you would already be doing within your business major. So if you are a business major, you're going into public relations, we were talking about earlier. I think B&P is a great area for you to look into because you're getting that organizational communication aspect along with those speeches that you'll have to stand up and give just like you would in a public speaking class. They just center around topics that are more in the purview of those in business, for sure.
Definitely. Let's see. So what you want to do if you do want to take the business for speech, I always tell students as well, think not just about being your time here at SAC, but you have to think beyond that. And that's where advisors come in, and you have to talk to an advisor about transferring to see what classes will transfer. You don't want to take extra courses that you do not need. So, business majors, I believe they are required to take the business speech.
Correct.
And so get with an advisor today. I would recommend alamo.edu/advising. Where do you see a lot of the students coming out of your department transferring to?
It just really depends on the student. Of course, in San Antonio, family is big, and so folks don't like to leave their family behind. So you see a lot of folks going out to UTSA, Incarnate Word, to Our Lady of the Lake, those schools that are around here, A&M, San Antonio now. And those schools, most of the ones here in town, if you are looking to transfer in town, 1315 is the most transferable class out to those schools. So the public speaking class is what they're really looking for at those 4 years. But shop around and make sure you check with your advisors when it comes to this, because if you go to Texas State or A&M or a lot of those bigger schools that are outside of the San Antonio, outside of 1604 really, you're going to find that 1311, the intro course, is what they prefer. Most times, as long as you take a 1315 or 1311, you can figure out a way to make it transferable or talk to that advisor about it. But I think it's always good to do it on the front end and make sure the school that you are thinking about transferring to will most likely accept that course, just so you're protected whenever you leave. But 1311, 1315, or 1315 are pretty standard for that particular credit that you need, for sure.
Okay. Top 5 greatest speakers of all time.
Oh my God, that you put me on the spot there, Mustard. Oh my God. That is too difficult. I spend my entire day watching speeches. The funny thing, I think there are a lot of like really obscure folks that are really interesting, but I watch so many TED Talks and I watch so many competitive speeches. It's really hard to say. And
who's your favorite speaker right now?
Oh, man. I'd love to give you like a typical business response or motivational speaker response, like Tony Robbins or something like that. But there's this really awesome guy. I use a couple of his TED Talks in my class to talk about listening behaviors and how to engage an audience. There's a guy, if you look at TED Talks, his name is Julian Treasure. He's a British researcher in communication studies, and he's got some amazing things to say about my field, about communication, but also about public speaking and how to engage an audience so that they will listen. I think Julian's pretty awesome.
Yeah, public speaking, it's in every facet of our lives, right, especially in higher education, because whether you're teaching history or math, you have to present it in a way that it will keep the listener entertained,
right,
and listening. If it's not entertaining, they're not going to listen, and so you get students looking at the paper on their desks or cell phones and whatnot. It's difficult. It can be difficult.
It can be difficult. And I think especially a lot of students, especially younger students, come in thinking, we're living in the quote unquote digital age. At what point am I going to get up and give a presentation the same way? But I've pivoted a lot of my class to include a lot of things that you would do in the digital age. For instance, the demo speech that we were talking about earlier that you did, in my classes, I've made that an assignment where you're creating a TikTok demo, where you're doing like a TikTok how-to video. And so students who identify more with social media then go, okay, this is where this demo speech stuff is used online. It's something that I can actually do with presentational speaking. Outside of just interviewing or getting up and giving a speech, I use a lot of YouTube tutorials that I think people identify with, because it doesn't matter if it's happening face-to-face or you're doing it online. Public speaking will continue to be a facet of our daily lives. I definitely agree with that statement. It's just whether or not we're talking about it being effective in the digital age, right? We're transitioning to this this new world, and we've done a lot of it over the last year, right?
Oh yes. And when I first started out at SAC, I would cringe. I'd be like, oh no, not another presentation. We're not doing that in this class. No.
Right.
A couple semesters in, I was like, we're not doing any presentations. What's the problem? I want to do presentations, because they're fun after a while.
I think it's once you get over that initial anxiety. A lot of my class time is spent talking about how many of you feel this anxiety. I even have surveys and tests that I give in my class that will have these long discussions about why it is that we feel anxious about speaking in certain contexts and figure out what it is. The biggest thing that I get asked whenever I meet people for the first time, when they find out that I'm an instructor of speech, they'll say, oh, awesome. So I have to give presentations at work. I still get freaked out. How do I not get freaked out by public speaking? It's inevitable that I get asked that question. And the answer to that is time, right? The more time you give to public speaking, the less anxiety you feel. And then, like you were saying, Mustard, you turn around after a while and go, this is something that I actually crave. I like that audience interaction. I like those folks listening to me for that, 5 minutes or 10 minutes or however long the presentation is. You start to eventually kind of crave that interaction with a larger audience as opposed to just one-on-one interactions. So it's time and effort, and you build that skill, and eventually that anxiety, I won't say 100% goes away, but it diminishes so much that you don't even feel it.
So, when I was a student, the big controversy in presentations and speech, PowerPoint.
Oh, God.
Where do we stand on PowerPoint in presentations?
I start off my year by doing a presentation that involves no PowerPoint, and we're doing demo speeches or things like that. Of course, you want physical objects to show your audience. PowerPoint for a while, I was just actually completely shunning and going, stay away from PowerPoint. That's not there's so many better tools out there that you can use. I'm sure Prezi, there's tools like Email and now Canva that are amazing. I think our slide or visual aid tool kind of archive, the toolbox that we have to pull from, so to speak, is so much greater than it used to be. I still allow PowerPoints in my classes, but I give my students lots of options because I think there are so many great free options out there with these like interactive tools that don't just make a dinging noise or make some sort of zipping noise as you transition slides like PowerPoint's always done, but actually do these really cool interactive movements and kind of make more of that visual aspect of what you're doing in the background without being distracted, which is awesome.
Yes. Less is more.
Correct. Less is always more. So that they can really concentrate on you and what you have to say.
Yes. When I was getting my bachelor's, I had you had to write a 15-page paper and then give a presentation on it. I got my days mixed up and I had to go give a presentation, and I did not have my PowerPoint ready to go. I hadn't even started it because I thought it was like the next week.
Right.
I believe I had 10 slides. 5 of them were words. 5 of them were blank. I knocked it out of the park.
I was about to say, I think that a lot of times that can be better. I actually even promote to my students. I love the blank slide thing that you're bringing up because that's a little nuanced thing to take that image away so it's not distracting your audience and then bring it back. But I promote to my students only having images, and besides maybe a title at the beginning, to not put words on your slides, because what happens is your audience's eye goes to those words, even for 2 seconds to 5 seconds, they're reading whatever you put on the board. Everybody's probably heard that term death by PowerPoint, right? You don't want to overload your audience with too much visual because then it's really just destroying any interaction that they have with you as the speaker.
Definitely. And, for me, you can put one word on a PowerPoint and try to get your point across.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can find an image that you can put in their mind that you want in their mind when they think about that word, that's even better than the word itself.
Right, because then they leave thinking about that image. You kind of burn that into their mind, and then you added the context. You get the chance to add the meaning to whatever that image is, but that image is burned in their mind.
Yes. All right. Ooh, getting down to the wire. So, once again, if students want to get involved for the fall semester, and they want to get involved with the speech team, how can they do that?
So for the fall semester, we usually look at the end of summer, very early fall, to start doing some recruiting and some of those interviews or auditions that we were talking about. All you got to do is reach out to me through email at jblacklock, just like it sounds, BLACKLOCK at alamo.edu. And I have an office in McAllister, so if you are on campus and I'm not in class, McAllister Fine Arts 211. My office says it is a piano lab. I promise you it is my office and not a piano lab. Just look for 211 and I will be in here if I'm not in class. And don't hesitate to reach out. Don't hesitate to come by and talk. I love to set up interviews with new students and see where they're at and where we can help them to grow to.
There you go. There you go. Any big plans for the fall?
As of right now, the recruiting is the main thing on our minds. In terms of the team, we're looking to do virtual tournaments in the fall and then move to a more traditional face-to-face tournament season, hopefully by spring. In terms of the department, we were working on a virtual reality headset for practicing your speeches in the communication lab. I think we're going to be building that back up once the school year gets started and we get clears from COVID where we can share headsets without being worried about the spread of COVID or anything like that.
Yep.
We're going to try and get the virtual reality up and running in our lab again. So just look out for flyers and posters. Come to McAllister and ask questions. We have an awesome lab. We have awesome instructors across the department. And if you're interested in speech team, just reach out to me. I'm happy to help.
Awesome. Quick reminders. Last day to register online for summer session 2 is July 6th. So summer session 2 registration is still open, and fall registration that will end August 17th. So you can still register for fall 16-week courses, fall flex 1, start 2, and fall flex 2. Just have to go online, alamo.edu/SAC. Get with an advisor today. Make sure you have no holds. If you're an incoming student, definitely meet with an advisor and let's get on board and get ready for the fall semester. All right. Well, it is that time of the show. I think we have to go. I want to thank you for joining us this morning, Justin.
Thank you so much, Hot Mustard. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk.
All right. Catch us here every Tuesday morning, 8:30 to 9, right here on the San Antonio College YouTube page. I'm Hot Mustard, and we'll see y'all next week.